Good evening. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Kent. We are a spiritual community that seeks to be diverse and inclusive as we inspire love, work for justice, and grow together in community. I am Reverend Stephen, the minister of this congregation. Thank you for joining us this Christmas Eve as we gather both in person and on Zoom. We extend a special welcome to our visitors. May our time of worship together bring you wonder, peace, and joy. For our visitors on Zoom, if you'd like to know more about our church and be in contact with us, there will be a contact link in the chat box at the end of the service. Everyone on Zoom is also welcome to stay afterward and talk with one another. If you're here in person this evening, you are welcome to join us downstairs in Fessenden Hall after the service for refreshments and conversation. And if you're a visitor and would like to know more about us, be in touch with us. You will find a green visitor card in the rack in front of you. I want to thank our team leading worship this evening, our religious education director, Colleen, our music director, Emily, our accompanist, Vanessa, the UUCK Peace Chorus and Friends, the Tone Chime Ensemble, music soloists Holly, Alicia, Lo, Vincent, and Rebecca, our ushers and greeters, and our tech team, Julie, David, and Kara, who prepared the slides. Thank you, Kara. We are a people that seek to be welcoming, inclusive, and practice radical hospitality. So in that spirit, we always take a little bit of time to turn and greet one another. So please, remaining seated, turn and briefly greet those next to you. Once again, welcome. Now I invite us to take a moment to breathe, to welcome the spirit of Christmas, and to prepare our hearts for the love, the hope, and the wonder of this night.
It was a warm spring night when my first child was born. Before that night, it had been just us. Only I could feel him growing, moving, hiccuping. We were connected, like a secret the world didn't know about yet. When the time came for him to be born, I thought that I was ready. I knew that I would love him. I already did. What I did not yet know was that my understanding of love would change so fast. They gave him to me, and I looked into his eyes, and in that moment, the world fell away. There was no worry. no time. In that moment, I could only hear his heart beating. I could only see his light. I could only feel love. For in my arms, I held a miracle. We gather tonight to be still within the mystery, to hear the story of a baby born this night, who would bring hope to the world with his first breath, a baby born to remind us to love one another, a baby born to a simple family. It is a story of parents who, despite living in uncertain times and without the assuredness of safety, looked upon their baby's face and saw the promise of a better world, the gift of hope when all seems lost, a shining light in a cold, dark night. Not unlike mothers everywhere who look into the eyes of their babies, and suddenly there is no container big enough to hold the depths of their love. Mary held her child close, and in his eyes she saw a messenger. She saw a Messiah, and she knew that she would one day share him with the world. But on that first night, they were simply a family, just them. In those first precious moments, the world would fall away, and Mary could hear his heart beating and see his light shining and feel only love. For in her arms, she held a miracle. Come, let us worship together.
To remind us of the light of this holy night, the light of love, as Unitarian Universalist, we kindle a fire within a chalice during the darkest time of the year as a small yet significant gesture, a promise of returning light, a reminder of life's beauty and wonder, lighting the infinite universe little by little from within. As Katie and Benny light our shared chalice, I invite those on Zoom to light your home chalice. Would you join me now in our chalice lighting words? As a sign of the love that brings us together, as a symbol of this season's message of hope, as a witness to the light of truth within and among us, with a joyful spirit on this shining night, we kindle our Christmas flame.
The Star Child. Millions and millions of children are going to sleep, and millions of stars are shining in the sky. Some say the stars are places where love shines through. Some say there is one star for every child, and that each time a child is born, there is another place where love shines through. Once upon a time, there were a man and a woman to whom was born a baby, a perfectly lovely child, like you, Katie. This baby's mother and father knew for sure that he was a child of God, a gift from heaven just like you. So it happened that his star was very, very bright on the night that he was born. It was so bright, I just can't tell you how bright it was. Still, most people did not notice this bright, bright, shining star. They had too much to do. They had too much to do to be out looking at stars. They were too busy in their lighted homes. And it was so hard to see the stars when the lights are on, right? Outside in the darkness on the hills were some shepherds. Often they built fires because they were afraid of the dark. But the fires they built were too small for the big darkness. Otherwise, there wasn't much to do out there on the night hills. So the shepherds were always looking up to the shining stars in the dark sky. Of course, they saw the bright star of the new baby. The other people to see the star were 3 wise men. They had big houses with lots of lights and all the shiny treasures anyone could ever wish to have. Yet each of them still had one big wish. They wished to find something brighter and better than all of the treasures on earth. The wise men saw the star because they were looking for light. So the only people who saw the star of the baby were some shepherds who had almost nothing, and 3 wise men who had almost everything. It was such an amazingly bright and beautiful star that the shepherds and wise men all got up and followed it. They walked and walked until finally they were standing right under the star's light. There they saw the star child with his star mother and star father, and suddenly they were filled with love. Now they could see it too, that the baby was a child of God, and they saw that the light of the wonderful star was love.
There is an old legend on Christmas Eve that at midnight the animals can talk. Do you think your dog or cat or other pet will have something to say tonight? If you live on a farm, will the horses or cows or sheep start talking? Why not? It is a night of magic, of mystery, of miracles, of the world, this hard, harsh, cruel world being turned upside down with news. Tidings of great joy, the birth of a child, and not just any child. A child who would grow up to bring good news to the poor, to those beaten down by the world, by those who are on life's margins, telling them, you are blessed, you are healed, you are worthy, the kingdom of God is yours. This news doesn't come to the rich or the powerful or the influencers on social media. The message of Christmas comes to a poor shepherd boy, a child sitting there in the dark on a hillside watching his flock of sheep. Maybe he was sleeping while the dogs kept watch, but he's awakened by a lamb who says, "There's a song ringing through the sky. Listen, do you hear it?" Startled, the child looks up and the sky is filled with angels singing, their voices echoing through the night. And what a song! Glory in the highest, peace on earth, goodwill to all. The child is terrified because he's never seen or heard anything like this. And perhaps there are other shepherds with him. He goes to wake them, but they're already awake because there's chaos. My colleague Lynn Ungar wrote, "What a picture it makes. The dumbfounded shepherds and the stricken sheep, the cacophony of bleating and the barking of sheepdogs, dashing and nipping in a vain attempt at order, and over it all the angels trying to make their shimmery voices heard." "A who? Wrapped in what?" the shepherds yell back. "Where are we supposed to go?" Eventually the message gets through. Go to Bethlehem and see for yourself. And they did. In that humble manger, they find a mother and father and a newborn baby. The shepherds tell their story of angels appearing in the sky and singing, and everyone who heard the shepherd's story was amazed. Perhaps the shepherd boy who first heard the lamb speak told his story. And I wonder, did the shepherd boy hear the lamb's words because a child's heart and ears are open to hear the truth that love is present and good and real in this world? What about our ears and hearts? Are they open to good news of hope, of the power of love to bring peace and justice for all people? Where will we hear this good news? Animals talk to us all the time. Maybe on this Christmas Eve, your dog or cat or hamster will surprise you. Or maybe, just maybe, we'll hear it from those who are shepherds today, those on the margins of life, poor kids of color working in a fast food job, that woman on the corner who is homeless, an undocumented immigrant, a trans person who wants to be accepted for who they are. Will we listen? Will we hear glory in the highest, peace on earth, goodwill to all? Will we be changed this night and join in the work of healing, of loving, of caring for one another and our earth? This is a reading titled "The Camels Speak" by the Reverend Lynn Ungar. Of course, they never consulted us. They were wise men, kings, star readers, and we merely transportation. They simply loaded us with gifts and turned us toward the star. I ask you, what would a king know of choosing presents for a child? Had they ever seen a baby born to such simple folks, so naked of pretension, so open to the wind? What would such a child care for perfumes and gold? Far better to have asked one born in the desert, tested by wind and sand. We saw what he would need: the gift of perseverance, of continuing on the hard way, making do with what there is, living on what you have inside. The gift of holding up under a burden, of lifting one another with grace, of kneeling to accept the weight of what you must bear. Our footsteps could have rocked him with the rhythm of the road, shown him comfort in a harsh land, the dignity of continually moving forward. But the wise men were not wise enough to ask. They simply left their trinkets and admired the rustic view. Before you knew it, we were turned again toward home, carrying men only half willing to be amazed. But never mind, we saw the baby, felt him reach for the bright tassels of our gear. We desert amblers have our ways of seeing what you chatterers must miss. That child at heart knows something about following a star. Our gifts are given. Have no doubt, his life will bear the print of who we are.
Send a shepherd boy to the mighty King. Do you know what I know? In your palace warm, mighty King.
We are born with the gift to love. Babies move toward the sounds of love from the moment they draw their first breath. They're seeking closeness and safety, nourishment, warmth. And when they encounter this love, it confirms what they were born knowing. As they grow in this love, they believe that all experience this same love. But it will come, the day when a child is made aware that there is pain and suffering in this world, that war is real, that poverty and racial injustice exist, and that there are people who don't feel safe, and that there are barriers to love. But in the face of knowing these harsh truths, children also know what to do. They know the truth. For a child, love is not something we earn or accomplish. Love is simply given freely, without rules or limits. Love is the baseline. And when we love without barrier, it is the most natural of all things to then care for and love others. Simple, honest, without ego, without qualifiers. There is no test of worthiness. There is only the truth that we are born holy, and that all of us must have warmth and full bellies and safety and love, full stop. There are no acceptable alternatives. And children also know that it is our responsibility to make this so. They know to share their food when they see someone is hungry. They offer blankets if they see that you are cold. And they know to offer kindness or a hug if they see that you are sad. And children can be quick to remind us when we, the grown, have fallen short of these simple truths. The shepherd boy offered such a reminder to the mighty king. Said the shepherd boy to the mighty king, "Do you know what I know?" He goes on with this question, an invitation really. At the same time, it says, "Do you want to know what I know?" He goes on, "In your palace warm, mighty king, a child shivers in the cold. Let us bring him silver and gold." The gentle but firm reminder of, "In your palace warm, mighty king." And in this moment, he has spoken truth from the voice of a young person to a powerful king. And in this moment, without pride or ego, the king is guided back to what he was born knowing. That love is to be shared with those who shiver in the night. And he listens and he is moved, and the grown king, reminded of what he was born knowing, then knows that he must give love and pray for peace. And that we must also then be love and be peace by caring for one another. And so he proclaims that the child born in the night will bring goodness and light to a weary world. And on this night of miracles, may we know the truth, that every child is born with these gifts, that every child is born a Messiah, bringing us the hope of love and the light of truth. And may we know the truth that even the littlest of shepherds can go boldly into the world with a message of hope, even to the halls of power, a message that reminds us that we must give the best of ourselves, that even when we have lost our way, we can return to what we were all born knowing, that love is always the answer. On this Christmas Eve, I wonder, do you know what the children know?
Said the King to the people everywhere, listen to what I say. Pray for peace, people everywhere, listen to what I say. The child, sleeping in the night, he will bring us goodness and light. He will bring us goodness and light. Bring us light.
The angels brought the gift of a song. The shepherds brought the gift of wonder and awe. The kings brought their gifts. What gifts do we bring this evening? As we celebrate the wonder and mystery of Christmas, we have the opportunity to share our gifts, to share the spirit of Christmas in the Kent community and beyond through our generosity by giving to agencies and organizations that serve those in need. December's special offering is for the Minister's Discretionary Fund. It provides resources to meet emergency needs of people in our congregation and the greater Kent community. It provides support for lay leadership and provides other benefits to the church. Now, in the spirit of gratitude for the gift of one another and this community and the abundance that makes generosity possible, we give and receive the offering as a sign of our shared commitment to the life and work of this congregation and beyond. Time for our candle lighting, a little bit of instruction. As you light your candle from your neighbors, please keep lit candles upright and tip the unlit candle into the lit candle. As we light our candles, please join in singing our Song of Peace, number 388, Dona Nobis Pacem. This is the story of the birth of Jesus as told in the Gospel of Luke, the 2nd chapter. In those days, a decree went out from Emperor Augustus that all the world should be registered, each in the town of their ancestors. Joseph went from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to Bethlehem, the city of David, because he was descended from the house and family of David. He went to be registered with Mary, to whom he was engaged, and who was expecting a child. While they were there, Mary gave birth to her firstborn son, and wrapped him in bands of cloth, and laid him in a manger, because there was no place for them in the inn. In that region there were shepherds living in the fields, keeping watch over their flocks by night. Then an angel of God stood before them, and the glory of the heavens shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them, "Do not be afraid, for I bring you good news of great joy for all the people. To you is born this day in the city of David a child, who is the Anointed One. And this will be a sign for you. You will find the baby wrapped in bands of cloth, lying in a manger." And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace among those whom God favors." When the angels had left them and gone into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Let us go now to Bethlehem and see this thing which has been made known to us." So they went quickly and found Mary and Joseph and the child lying in the manger. When the shepherds saw this, they made known what had been told them about this child, and all who heard it were amazed. Would you join now in singing Silent Night? invite you to take just a moment and to look around. And now, as you extinguish your candles very gently, would you join me in the words for extinguishing our chalice? We extinguish these flames, but not the light of truth, the spirit of joy, the warmth of community, or the fire of Christmas hope. May we carry these in our hearts and minds until we are together again.
These are the words of Howard Thurman. When the song of the angels is stilled, when the star in the sky is gone, when the kings and princes are home, when the shepherds are back with their flocks, then the real work of Christmas begins. To find the lost, to heal the broken, to feed the hungry, to release the prisoner, to rebuild the nations, to bring peace to all, to make music in the heart.
And now, filled with light and hope, blessed by the wonder and beauty of this holy night, and renewed by the warmth and love of this community, may we go forth in peace and joy to do the real work of Christmas as we continue to inspire love, seek justice, and grow in community. May it be so. Blessed be. Amen. And Merry Christmas, everyone.